by now your brains are all saturated with a lot of information. I think it's quite clear coming into this workshop that we'd like to perhaps unpack a little bit more of what we've discussed. But my approach is, I've got a few information I'd like to share with you. Right? A few slides I'd like to run through, and as I run through, I'll try to refer to some of the things we've discussed in the main plenary. And also, please feel free to share and comment and add information, because all of us as adults are not coming into this workshop blank. We're coming in with some experience. It might not be medical, it might not be public health, it could be social, it could be psychological, it could be religious experience that you've gained, which has given you some insights into these topics, which is most welcome. And as a Christian public health specialist, I always believe that the Bible is my first scientific textbook. And I can prove to you that the Bible has got a lot of science. Can I prove it to you? Yes. Come with me to Genesis chapter 20. Are you there? Genesis chapter 20. I have my Bible with me here. I always carry it around with me. And I make sure it's not in my bag. It's separate so that people can see it. Because we're living in a generation where the Bible is being hidden from sight. This book is becoming very scarce in our homes. We don't read it. We no longer want to be seen carrying it. I've got mine that's even personalized with my name. If you steal it, it will remain mine. Alright, so please have a Bible. It can be on our computers, it can be on our cell phones. But it's very difficult to tell whether someone who's carrying a cell phone is a Christian or not. But when you carry this, it's very clear who you are. Alright, when I was checking in, Genesis chapter 20, when I was checking in at the airport, the guy asked me, do you have any of these dangerous items? Yes, sir. So he looked there. I said, what is this? He said, it's a gun. I said, oh yeah, I've got one. He looked at me with a funny face. He says, can I see it, sir? So I pulled it out from my counter and I said, this is my weapon of mass destruction. So I love my Bible, I like to refer to it. I encourage you to read it. This is the only book, by the way, that is designed that when you read it, your brain grows. The only book. And the growth of that brain, the doctor touched about it. He talked about the development of new neurons or nerves. This book, because of the power of God that's here, gives you vitality that causes your brain to grow. Let me prove to you that the Bible has a lot of genealogy. I hope my voice is not disturbing those guys next door. We can close the door. Thank you. Chapter 20, verse 4. Now, by the way, this chapter I'm quoting from is a chapter, one of the two sections in the Bible where God Himself wrote it. Not men. God Himself literally said, this one I'm going to write myself. I'm not going to give it to someone else. And that's the chapter on the 10 Commandments. Alright? The moral law that God gave to Moses. Listen to one of the things that God said. He said on verse 4, you shall not make for yourself a curved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and the fourth generations of those that hate me, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. Sorry? Did I say Genesis?
Yes.
Oh, someone was listening. I don't know. Sorry about that, sir. It's Exodus chapter 20. Yes. Exodus chapter 20. Verse 4 and 5. Thank you so much, sir, for that correction. So God commands in this verse his children of Israel not to make images. And then within that commandment, God puts these two words, visiting generations. Did you hear the words? He says, I will visit your children unto the third and the fourth generation. Now, the first four letters of that word, generation, what word is that? Generations come from genes. You perpetuate your gene pool to your children. You contribute 50% of your chromosomes to your children, and your grandchildren still have a little bit of your gene, but it changes over time. And science has proven actually that your genes get changed by the third and fourth generation. So whatever you do today gets carried in your genes. Remember what the doctor was saying this morning, that what you eat, how you think, how you sleep, whatever you do affects your brain, and it wires you. You are wired the way you behave and the way you think. That's why the Bible says, as a man thinks, so is he. The question is, so is he where? In his mind and in his behavior. Alright? That's why the Bible, when Jesus was teaching, he says, what comes into the human body does not defile, because the body has a way of removing it. But it's what comes out that defiles. I hope you had your homework to go and read Romans chapter 1. I gave you homework yesterday, Romans 1, verse 27, 8, and 9 up to 30. Did you read it? Please do, as you go home today, wherever you are. Read that chapter and see how, when God is not part of the mind gets the best. The Bible talks of a reprobate mind, which is an unprincipled mind. A mind that can do anything. And that's why today we are struggling with a number of many challenges from an infectious point of disease view. Now, let's get into our outline for the discussion today. What I'd like to cover in the discussion for this morning. Now, why is my slide not moving? Okay. I talked a little bit yesterday about what is killing South Africans. We didn't really delve deep into the infectious disease topic, and I'd like to dig a little bit deeper, focusing specifically on the subject matter that I know. There are many infectious diseases, but what I'd like to talk about is what is killing South Africans, and I'm also going to talk a lot about HIV in South Africa, because that's one of the biggest killers in South Africa, coupled with TB. And then we will talk about ways in which infectious diseases are passed out, or they are acquired, or they are passed out. Any nurse or doctor in the room? There's one doctor. Nurse, yes. Anyone else? There are two nurses. Great. So these will become our resource persons because they've gone to school to learn about infectious diseases. Right? But I'll share a lot about what I have put together for our discussion today. And then we'll have a concluding session on messages. Now, what is killing South Africans? Before I get into that, are there any wild expectations or any moderate or any normal expectations you have for the presentation this morning? Is there something you really want to know about? Or something you're saying, please, in the next hour, this is what I would like to know about. Is there anything? Yes.
You know, the way you presented it yesterday, that you said you would start from the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
That was not part of the presentation.
Yes.
Where it went wrong. So, and the thesis that was written by God. So that drew my attention to come to this class.
All right. We'll definitely talk about that a little bit. Thanks very much. The link between what happened, the genesis of things, and what it is now. Yes, my brother.
Also yesterday you spoke about the relationship between how our brain works and how we relate to other people, infectious diseases.
Yes, that's actually what we're going to delve into a little bit more. Yes, my sister.
You touched on the lack of knowledge and education, so I'm trying to, understand what's the link to counteract our uneducated state so that we can come to a point where we actually understand the link between diseases and the brain.
Yeah, thank you very much. We will touch a little bit about it, but not in detail, but we will pass by there, at least when we get to the concluding messages. We will conclude with what is the true knowledge that God wants us and where do we find it. You'll quote one verse that talks about Egypt. Alright? Yes.
It's not a matter of the other person has just mentioned. When it comes to the infectious diseases, and also HIV and AIDS, I would like to know how these things affect the brain, because we are working with so many people who are infected, some know, especially women. So if you are able to understand what is happening in terms of the brain or the brain damage or whatever negative effect, because it will put me in a position to understand them better.
And support them better. Yes, wonderful. Definitely going to cover that. Did I miss out anyone? So the rest of us are just freewheelers. Right? We're just going to go with the flow and we're going to enjoy ourselves, right? Great stuff. Now, look at this list. I think I shared this with you yesterday. You all saw this yesterday, right? Do you remember? If you look through that list carefully, there are quite a number of infectious diseases that are there. Can you pick them up? Infectious meaning diseases that are passed from one person to the other, whether directly or indirectly. Which ones can you pick from there? TB, yes. HIV, yes. Influenza and pneumonia, yes. Yeah, STIs, which are, we've not picked all of them, but we've picked HIV and yes. We haven't picked some of them. Yes, other viral diseases. Now, we also said yesterday the top 3 out of the top 5, out of the top 5, 3 of the leading causes of death in South Africa are infectious diseases. And of those infectious diseases, TB is the biggest killer in South Africa. And we lose up to almost 40,000 people every day in South Africa to TB. That's a lot of people who are dying. Alright? And what is the transmission mode for TB? One person to the other through the air. Alright? So if you don't want to get TB, what do you need to do? Just don't breathe. Okay? Yeah, just don't breathe in, then you'll be fine. But we know what happens when you stop breathing, right? Yeah, you die. Okay? So we are all of us, the pastor, the priest, the bishop, the elder, the deacon, the drug addict, the smoker, everyone is susceptible to. We all can get it. It is not because you have been promiscuous. It's just because you were breathing. And you happen to breathe in a space where it was. If there's someone in this room who's got flu, I can guarantee you in the next 24 hours, someone will start coughing, sneezing, itchy nose, a little bit of fever. You will pick it up because it's in the air. Right? Now, I want to just focus on HIV a little bit. I know it's number 5 on the list, but you must know that in the few years that we have come back from, in the 90s, HIV used to be the leading cause of death, not TB. So HIV is really, it started as a small little disease among a certain group of people, right? Yes, in the Americas, it was known as the diseases of gays and lesbians. But we have come to know that HIV is also in the general population. 5 graphs that talk about the status of HIV in South Africa. Now, what you're looking at there is how HIV impacted on life expectancy. Now, what you see there is that from 1990 to about 2010, the dotted graph means that's what's projected. All right? Of course, we do know right now, I've not updated that statistic, but this is what came out recently, all right, about the status of life expectancy in South Africa. Do you see what happened due to HIV? South Africans was at an average of about 65, 64, 62, 63 years. You could live up to there. That was the average expected life of a South African. But due to HIV and AIDS, from 1990 to 2004, it dropped to below 50 years. So when you get to 40, late 40s, 40 years and above, you can consider yourself a grandfather and a grandmother. That's what it meant as we turned the century. Because more people were dying from HIV and AIDS. What was killing them was something that had to do with their lifestyle. Something they had a choice. So few of them didn't have a choice because some people get it from other people. Not because they're unfaithful, maybe the husband decided to go and do some stuff and brought it home, or the wife went about and did what she did. But those cases are very few. Some, of course, get raped. Blood transfusion, very minimal, almost insignificant. Right? So the majority of the transmission is heterosexual, meaning a man sleeping around with a number of women, or the other way around, especially when they're not protected. Now, look at that. In the advent of HIV treatment in South Africa, what has happened to the number of people that are being on treatment? You remember our previous years in Durban, a few years ago, we were at the International AIDS Conference. And by then, our President Ndhlalambi was the president of the country. And he made pronouncements to the effect that HIV is a disease of poverty. It is not a sexually transmitted disease. The reason why people are dying from HIV is because they're not having enough nutrients to eat. If they eat well, they will not die from HIV. Then the Minister of Health, the late Msimang, then came up and said, in fact, there are foods that we must prescribe to people who are HIV. And then beetroot became one of the most famous talked about food in the highest chambers of science. All right? And immediately after her time, unfortunately she's late, when the new dispensation of leadership came in, President Zuma and the new Department of Health leadership, treatment was rolled out. And so far, we have more than 3.5 million people who are taking treatment daily. And some of them have actually cheated death. Because at the time they started their treatment, their CD4 would have been very low. They would have been clinically sick and almost at an advanced stage of treatment. But it's a miracle that some people have actually skipped death because of this treatment. And it's been seen to be one of the world's successful stories. And South Africa has the largest treatment program in the world for HIV and AIDS. And by the way, almost a third of those 3.5 million are in this province. It's over 1 million, which makes KwaZulu-Natal the epicenter of HIV, not only in South Africa, not only in Africa, but in the world over. This province is the province where we have seen the biggest impact of HIV and AIDS. And the biggest treatment program is in this province. Right? So we really thank God for the advances in science that have saved many lives. But imagine what it means from our discussion in the morning, that every day you're flooding your body with this biochemical drugs into your system every day to suppress the replication of a virus. What impacts does it have on your brain? We're going to talk a little bit about that in the next few slides. The number of new infections in South Africa. And you can see between 1990 and the year 1998, thereabout, as we were gaining our political independence, we were really struggling with HIV and AIDS. That year, we saw the highest number of new infections. In that space of just 5 years, HIV rose from less than 100,000 to well over 500,000 infected people. That told the story of how South Africans are living. South Africans, what word can I use? I cannot find a better word than to say they're promiscuous. We are promiscuous. We have more than one sexual partner. That's what the story says. Because the majority of this transmission was via heterosexual relationships. What has then happened? If you look at the red line, these are the numbers of death. So the numbers of death have not quite followed the trend in terms of infections. Why? Why is it there were more infections, but there were less gradual deaths? Treatment is one of the reasons, right? So when we started rolling treatment, but remember treatment is somewhere here. So treatment has actually bended this graph downwards, right? It's one of the reasons. But the other reasons could be, so there was a lot of awareness. People got to know what are the risks, all right? And some people who were infected began to learn how to live with their virus. And how not to pass it on to other people, and how to prolong their life. So a couple of things happened. Treatment was one of them. Information, education, awareness, but also fear among church members of being embarrassed to know when you got say an elder died from HIV and AIDS. That would be an embarrassment. So people actually stayed away from these promiscuous relationships for fear of being stigmatized. And I'd like to believe there are many among the church, when I say the church, I mean the church in general, Christians, who are avoiding promiscuity, not because it is wrong, but because they are afraid of HIV. Right? The plague, pestilence. All right? But the other good story I would like you to pick up from this is that when you get infected today, you don't die now. Hello?
Yes.
This disease does not kill you now. It walks with you slowly to your death. It takes time. So our peak of infections was about 96, 98. Peak of our death was in 2006. There are about 10 years it takes. And once you're infected, always infected. All right? So once you get infected, you don't get out of the pool, which is why this graph looks like it's going up and up and up and up. It's not really that there are more people. Yes, there are a few more people getting infected, but we know that once you are infected, you stay in the pool. So that pool will always be growing. It's not going to get smaller because once you get infected, you stay with your HIV and AIDS. So when you look at the graph for prevalence, it might look like it's continuing to go up, but it's because more people get infected and they live and remain in the pool. The only way you get out is by death. You know what prevalence is, right? Okay, let me explain it in a simple way. Assume you've got a big dish of water, right? So this dish, let's not call it a dish of water. This dish is a dish where there's HIV. HIV is in this big bowl dish. Right? So if we want to count the amount of HIV, we just count the amount that's in this dish or dish. Now, that is what we call prevalence. To say how many people who are in this dish actually have HIV/AIDS. So if we are 20 here, we count how many of us in this pool have HIV as a proportion of the total number. So if we are 20 and then 5 of us are HIV positive, what's our prevalence? It's a quarter, right? 25%. That's prevalence. The proportion of people out of the whole population who've got the disease. Right? It's always expressed as a percentage. Then the incidence, there's this thing they call incidence, right? Incidence means we are 20 here in this room. How many of the people who are coming into this room are actually HIV positive? So it's the number of new cases that are coming in. All right? So how do you stop the incidence? Is by closing that door and remaining with us here, so that when those who are HIV positive die, our incidence comes down, or we put you on treatment, then our mortality gets low. So imagine this big sink bowl. There's a pipe that goes out with all the water that's supposed to leak out. So you only get out of that big sink by death, right? Because once HIV positive, you remain. If you're negative, we want you to stay negative. So the only way you're going to reduce HIV in this big ball is for you to die. All right? Now, the best way to reduce HIV in this pool is to close that door and not allow anyone to be infected. So that's where prevention comes in, at the door. That's where God's word comes in. When you read that chapter, on Exodus chapter 20, remember? There's a verse there. If you look at verse 14, to cover one of my sister's question, God says, you shall not commit adultery. 5 words God wrote saying, don't do it. Because when you do, there are consequences, all right, that come with breaking God's law. That's what I am.
Sorry to disturb. Speaking of prevention,
yes,
is circumcision part of it, in the eyes of God?
I would like to believe there's so many things that God said that He commanded us that we should do that have got a lot of benefit that only science is discovering now. So to answer you quickly, yes, there is a benefit that circumcision provides to infectious diseases, both for men and for women. So science recently has just some of the trials that were done in South Africa at Orange Farm, Citibank district in Gauteng, which have become part of the global knowledge of how circumcision is good, have discovered that a male who is circumcised, he has up to 60% protection from HIV. Which means when you remove the foreskin that covers your glands on the male organ, you cut that out completely, surgically remove it, you have a 60% chance of protecting this man from HIV, because the foreskin is where HIV comes in, especially the inside skin, which is softer. And there are more cells there. There are particular cells that are receptors for sexual fluids. So if you cut that out, you reduce by 60%, but you don't protect 100%. Because as long as you've got any cuts on your organ, you can still get HIV. But because you're circumcised, it develops, your skin gets more tougher, so there's no penetration of the virus. So you've got a higher protection rate. The other good news for women is that once you are circumcised, it removes HPV, which normally most men who are sexually active carry. Herpes simplex. HPV, which is human papillomavirus, which is one of the quickest drivers for cervical cancer, or causes for cervical cancer. So if you're circumcised, you've got less of that virus, which means it protects your partner from cervical cancer. So they don't need to be vaccinated for it. You wanted to do a follow-up?
No, I wanted to ask about the cancer issue and you just clarified.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so there are benefits for both. And by the way, for more information, I am told, I don't know about this, but I am told that circumcised men are more sexually satisfying to their partners. You ask the women, that's what they say. I don't know how they tested that, but it's a subject for another day. We will leave it there. But what I know from the studies we've done with other men is that they do report that they are able to perform much more longer and have a more sustained erection. Their sensitivity is a little bit less, so they're able to hold the erection a little bit longer. And I guess that's where the science is coming from. But can we rewind and come back now to this? Ways that infectious diseases are spread. This is just to get our knowledge and understand how infectious diseases are spread. And I'm going to cover all of them, including HIV. Let's start with the first one, germs. Germs are things we find. Remember what the doctor said on the first presentation, right when we started yesterday? We are more bacterial than we are human. Remember? Yes, we are more germs than we are human. And some of the germs are good germs, just like you have good bacteria that keep you alive. Right? But these bacteria are spread through the air, but we also get them through contact. And this contact could be direct or indirect, and some of them are also found in the blood or in our body fluids. And like I said, they can be spread from person to person by direct contact. All right? They can be spread indirectly through certain things that we share with other people, which is why it is important to deal with germs. You need to wash your hands more frequently and wash them correctly. Right? In hospital, when the nurses are practicing in surgery, or whichever practice, you cannot touch this patient and then move with your hands to touch the other patient. There's this thing they call infection prevention, IP. Right? Infection prevention means you cannot move from one area of the clinic to another without washing your or sanitizing yourself. It's to protect the environment and yourself from germs. So we get it from contamination with the environment. Now, germs can also be spread through the mouth, the respiratory tract, your eyes, your genitals, and any forms of your broken skin. And this could also include sexual contact, food and water. That is actually the most common source of most germs. Drinking water that's not purified, that's not clean. And also eating food that's not prepared properly. That is one of the biggest sources of problems. And why children in this country die? We have one of the highest child mortality rates. You know why? Because mothers change these babies. They change the pampers and they don't wash their hands. They go and prepare the food for the babies, they don't wash their hands. They feed these babies with their hands, they don't wash their hands. Just washing of hands has been proven to be the most effective method to prevent child mortality or diarrhea, infant diarrhea, which kills a lot of babies. So it is important when you also sneeze and when you cough to cover your. Some people cover with their mouths and then they go and shake. Alright? So try to cover yourself with a non-contact spot on your body. Alright? Someone asked, what about if I do this and then I hug? Unfortunately, it's a difficult one. We also spread infectious diseases through the air in droplets. As I speak right now, I am emitting a lot of water or aerosol. You know when you spray the air freshener here, it filters through the air until you can smell it there. So my breath, as we call it, comes with a lot of droplets that you may not see, because some of them are so minute microns. but it also spreads out. So when I cough, when I have flu, when I sneeze, it goes into the air and you pick it up. You don't have to come and touch my nose to pick it up. You just have to be in close proximity to me. And we pick these infections. Rubella is one of the very common one among children, which is why we immunize children for these diseases, right? Which is an infectious disease, and rubella can get it even before a child is born. The mother can have it, and it often results in fetal death. Very serious diseases. Now, we also spread them through the air by aerosol, like I mentioned. You spray here, you get it, you breathe here, it also goes in the air. And this is one of the ways where TB is acquired. It's through the air. When you are in close proximity to the infected person, in closed doors like this, where there's no free flow of air, these infectious bacteria can stay in the air for a while. And if you're in that space, you can pick it up and you can get infected. Now, because they're so small, it's easy for them to travel in the air. Right? They don't fall to the ground. They travel in the air. And as you breathe, you get them in. Right? They can even land on your skin. And as you breathe them in, you get infected. And that's one of the most difficult ways about infectious diseases. Now, we also spread them through our blood and our body fluids. Now, what is the biggest organ for secreting waste in the human body? What's the biggest organ for secreting waste?
The skin.
Liver. The liver? The skin. Well done. Yes, you said the skin. I heard you first. Yes. The skin is your biggest secretion organ. When you run, you sweat water right through your body. Where is that water coming from? Through your pores in the skin, right? So your skin is one of your biggest secretion organ, but it's also one of your biggest infection sources. Skin infections are very common and you pick them up through the skin. Now, we have a lot of body fluids, and most of these body fluids are found in the organs that we use to either eat, which is the mouth, or to pass out our human waste, which is your anal or your female-male organs, reproductive organs. There are a lot of body fluids that are there. So any contact there, these fluids are passed around. Right? There is an exchange of material. It's a transaction. There's a lot of energy that's exchanged and material that's exchanged at that level. Now, sexual contact could either be genital to genital, or oral to genital, or genital to oral. There are many ways. But any contact unprotected does result in exchange of diseases. So when God said, "Thou shalt not commit adultery," God knew that at the point of engaging sexually with someone, there is an exchange. Science has not fully understood what is fully exchanged at a biochemical level. That study of biochemical changes when a man and a woman come together is only beginning to be understood now, but it remains a mystery in science. There is much more than emotions. The Bible says, how can a man carry fire on his bosom and not burn? So the Bible calls it fire. And there's fire that's exchanged here. The question I asked the other group the other day was, why is it that people who get married end up looking alike? Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
They look so alike.
Yes.
There's a reshaping that happens because of exchange of genetic material when two are one. You know, the Bible is not scientific. It's not written like a scientific text, but it is a scientific book. That's why God says, "A man shall leave his mother and his father and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one." Not that the two are one. They become, which is a continuous process of growth and being one. So I would like to believe this oneness is not only just in the physical features that end up looking the same, But it's much bigger than that. Much bigger than science. It's a science that only God understands. How these two become one. I even said to the other group the other day, when God was creating Adam, did he have Eve in mind? So God makes mistakes. The way he created Adam. If you look at the reproductive system for a man and a woman, they are so complementary, are they? So complementary. When you come into reproductive science, so complementary. Why? So did God have Eve in mind when he created the reproductive system for Adam? Yes. I believe he was. God never does things as an afterthought. He always had Eve in mind. So when God told himself it is not good for men to be alone, he was just expressing what he already had thought. But in a way that looked like God had forgotten what Adam needed. And when you look at the anatomy of the two, they are so complementary. It's like God was creating this one with this one in mind. All right, let me not go into detail there. It's for another day. Yes.
I just wanted to add to this one. He said, in you before you were
formed. Yeah. Yes. So he knew Eve. He had Eve in mind. All right. Now, we then know that through sexual contact, there is much more exchanges. And if you want to kill someone, get involved in sexual immorality. If you want to kill your husband or your wife, be unfaithful. You don't only kill them here, you kill them here. You will create a different person altogether. Alright? Which means there is fire when sexual exchange. And the mind, by the way, the mind controls the pleasure centers. And one of the, this is now where it gets very exciting. The reproductive system for men. Why is it that God added a lot of emotion and pleasure with sex? Why? Why God didn't just make it such that you could just do like animals, you just give the eggs freely and then they walk away. There's no emotional attachment. Why did God put so much fire and emotions into sexual acts? And oh, by the way, let me share with you this information. Next to food. No. Next to food, the most emotionally engaging exercise is sex. Let me explain this. How many emotions do you have, or senses do you have? You've got eyes, right? When you eat your food, do you eat it blindly? No. You actually choose which one do I want to taste now, isn't it? You use your eyes. Do you use your nose? Yes. You smell the aroma and you feel the taste of the food even as you're chewing it, right? You can smell it. It smells good. Do you hear your food when you eat it? Yeah. When you crush it in your mouth, you can hear it. Alright? Do you touch your food? Yes. That's why Africans prefer to eat their food with their hands when you touch it. It really speaks to you because you get to smell and touch different textures and you know how they feel, isn't it? But of course, we have now become very scientific and all foreign. We no longer touch our food. We even wipe ourselves with it. Alright, but God created this hand to touch. Alright, so all the senses are involved, tactile and everything when you are eating. Am I right? There are very few things that you can do with all your senses, by the way. Very few. Right now, I'm using a few of my senses, not all of them, right? But when I have sex, I use all my 5 senses. All right? I use all of them. You touch this person, you see this person, you can smell their body odor. There's sound there, you can hear their feedback, whatever you do to them, they respond back. You are hearing things. bodies and your energy levels and your battery is firing at the highest level. Alright, your reproductive system, your blood circulation changes. The brain says, hey, blood, run down there. Feed that organ and get this man ready for this action. There's life being shared here. Alright? So both of you are supercharged at the same reproductive system. You copulate, you enjoy. Afterwards, hormones and neurons are emitted, you bond. And once you share that material, there is fire when you break apart. So this is one of the biggest transmitters of a disease that has ravaged our country. And I'm focusing on it because my life has been created and my career has been created around this disease. When you get HIV, so many things in your life change. Let's run quickly because I want to get to how HIV affects your mind. This I think I've covered. We also get infectious diseases from the environment because our environment has become contaminated. Even the animals are infected. Our meat is no longer clean. Even the clean animals that are said to be clean are no longer that clean because they have diseases. Right? There's a lot of challenges with our water and our soil. Now, we do know that HIV does affect your mind. Because your mind controls all your body systems, am I right? All of them are supposed to report to the mind. So it does affect your mind. Let's quickly move because of time. Now, we do know that HIV does cross your blood-brain barrier. You know that barrier in the brain which screens out any infections and any funny guys are not allowed up there. There's a door that goes into the boardroom of the body. So we know that HIV does cross that barrier. It's a very intelligent virus. It knows that you are the killer cell. You will kill me, so it knows how to run away from you and go and hide in places that you don't get into. Behind your eyes, in your bone marrow. It hides there, it starts replicating, corrupting your mind. Now, let me move quickly. Now, we do know that when HIV comes in, there are other infections that also come along with it. Fungal, parasitic, and viral challenges that you will face. And you can also get HIV-related brain tumors. Right? Now, let me move because of time. So, the primary diseases that you can get when you have HIV include what we call AIDS, dementia complex. You struggle with recall memory. And you struggle with decision making. You struggle remembering things, and you struggle doing things. There's lethargy that comes in. There's vascular myelopathy, which means the myelin sheath that covers the brain and protects your spinal cord and your nerves gets weakened up and it moves away from the cells and creates vacuoles or holes. So it weakens your vascular or your spinal cord. There's also peripheral neuropathy, which is your nerves, which are connected at the synapses. Remember how the doctors were explaining? How neurons connect and communicate with one another, and they're saying neurons that work together. They are the neurons that what?
Wired together.
That are wired, they work. So HIV goes and dismantles the connection of your neurons. Right? So it weakens your nerves or your peripheral nervous system. Your meninges in your brain gets also affected by HIV, and that's why you see most HIV patients end up with meningitis, which is an infection of the brain or the meninge. So that's quite a serious challenge in most of our cases in South Africa. So 10 to 15% of AIDS patients present with neurologic symptoms, which means they have challenges with the structures of their nervous system, including their mind, and their biochemical or electrical systems. They do show problems in those areas because of HIV infection. And this could be in the brain, the spine, or in the nerves. Now, 35 to 50% of these patients do actually, in the lifetime of their lives, do get neurologic symptoms, and they do manifest in their lives. So we do get patients.
Internet connection at the moment.
Are we going somewhere? No, we're not. 75 to 90% of neuropathic abnormalities at death, which means they actually develop chronic diseases, which kill them in the neurological system. Now, just quickly on this graph, how quickly does HIV get into your system and replicate itself? This is a graph that shows you what happens to your immune system once HIV comes in, and what happens to your HIV virus in your plasma in the blood when it gets in. And this is the spread of weeks. Just by weeks, and of course from here it's years. So within around about a week or so, around about somewhere there, your immune system already begins to react. The moment HIV comes in, the immune system is under attack. Immediately. It doesn't take long. So you can feel this infection when you get infected. And within 3 weeks, what happens to your viral load? It goes exponentially high. So this virus gets in and starts replicating itself within no time at all. Alright? And of course, over the years, it keeps growing. So there's a quick boost, the immune system fights, you stagnate a little bit, and you feel okay, but you continue dealing with the symptoms. There comes a point when the symptoms actually escalate and get you to death, if left untreated. Now, so you go into a quick acute stage. The moment you get HIV and you move towards AIDS, full-blown AIDS and death, you go into an acute stage of sickness. You can lose weight very quickly. You have seen this, right? Unexplained. People are like, this one. You know, they start stigmatizing you, which is not supposed to be the case. But that's a visible sign. Many things happen as well. You can get chronic meningitis, which is really losing your mind and getting really demented, almost like crazy, as we put it. Right? It's also possible late in that infection to get HIV-associated neurocognitive disorders. So at a neural level and a cognition level, which is your thinking, behavior, speech, and all of that can seriously get affected because of HIV infection. Now, there are a lot of challenges. I've just listed all the diseases that do come up which are associated with HIV that affect your biochemical structure, neurological level, that also affect your motor functions, which is your movement, your walking, the amount of energy you have and the activity you have. It also affects your cognition, your thinking capacity, the reaction. So there are a number of them, but the one I'd like to really focus on a lot is the HIV-associated neurocognitive disorder. Now, this manifests itself at 3 levels: cognition, like I mentioned, your motor, and your behavioral levels. Some of the key observations include you become very sluggish and lethargic and slow, and you lose precision in both mentation and motor control. So your mental capacity and function, you lose out a little bit, and you get just lethargic, slow, you are not interested in anything. All right? And in your thinking, you are also disoriented. You can get seriously affected by meningitis. It affects even your performance because you get a decline on your neuropsychological functioning. So psychologically, you're not up to gears, right? Or you would get extremely demented. Now, there's a lot of data that comes from studies that shows that seroconversion, which means you getting HIV infected, has no relationship in terms of your active life and your cognitive function. So you could lose your brain. It doesn't necessarily mean when you get infected, suddenly you have cognitive challenges. You can live a normal life, or you could still get infected and get these symptoms going immediately. There's no correlation in terms of your between your duration of HIV positivity and when there's neuropsychological decline. There's no relationship, but these things can come at any stage. So
Is the disorder or the cognitive disorder related to the victim knowing their status, or it's something that comes even when you don't know you are?
Oh yeah, so does it mean you have to know your status or not? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Some of it actually could be the trigger that tells you there's something wrong. So when you test this patient and you realize they have a challenge with neurological or psychological functioning, you could also do HIV test to determine whether that's what's going on. But the other way is also correct. When you discover that you've got this disease, because of the stigma and the discrimination and the shame and the embarrassment that the disease comes with, it could result in you having the neuropsychological challenges. And you come to the level of being suicidal, and wanting to kill the person who infected you, if you know them. So these are crimes of passion, where people get very suicidal. The good news, however, is that I want to quickly share with you that the advent of highly active antiretroviral therapy, what we call HAT or AT, antiretroviral therapy, has resulted in a lot of positive outcomes. So that table just shows you before 95, prior to AT, what was happening. So we saw high levels of this dementia, cases of loss of memory. We had 15 to 40% of dementia reported prior to the death of HIV patients, which is quite a high percentage. And we also had quite a number of people who reported dementia after 6 months of infection, early in the infection. But in the advent of ACT, the incidences have been low, cognitive impairment has halved, very low, and of course we do report quite a lot of people who live longer because they are on treatment and they are considered to have a chronic disease which can be managed through treatment. Yes.
I'd like to know if it is true about this thing that is going around it in terms of duration and to affect the brain and other stuff.
Yeah.
There is a belief that people who were infected long ago, or people who are much older, they tend to, the HIV tends to move much slower in comparison to these young people who get infected in these age. As a result, some people who were infected long ago, some of them still not taking the treatment, they seem to be doing well. They believe that the virus progresses slower. They say it's type 1, type 2, HIV. All that is it. Really.
So there is knowledge, yes, in terms of the HIV types are different. So we have a lot of the HIV strand that you have in Southern Africa is not the same strand you have in West Africa. So the one we have in Southern Africa is very virulent, which means it's a very quick killer, right? It spreads it's transmitted very quickly. In terms of age differences, in terms of how the old and the young look at it, I don't have any definitive literature that I've looked at, but definitely I do know that the biggest difference between the generation past and the generation now is lifestyle, especially in terms of the amount of activity that we do and the type of foods that we eat are completely different. And HIV and diet have a high correlation in terms of your progression in your disease stages. But I don't know if there's anyone with that evidence of saying your generation back then and now. Yes.
The thing that happens is that the old people, they're not sexually active, and the young ones now, slips with this one, and then the next thing is that one, the next thing is
experimentation, yes.
So the virus tends to get stronger and stronger and stronger. That's why our generation, we die in 25, 24, 30, you know, if we live longer. So, you know, the old people, because they eat, you know, those old, when I don't know how you spell it here in Zulu, but, you know, there's like that old stuff you get in the villages, you know.
Natural foods, yeah. Traditional food.
Yes, exactly. You know, as the young generation, you know, we don't even like sweet potato. No, we're like, no.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't taste nice.
Yeah.
So the old people, they eat that 24/7. They eat the nuts from the ground. You know, they're not yet purified or whatever. So that's why they live long. That's why they get to 65, 70 years old with HIV. Us, 30, 35, we're gone.
Yeah.
So you know, that's the challenge. That's the.
But also remember, thanks very much for that response. But just to add on, our young people are getting sexually active very early.
Yeah.
And so the incubation period for HIV gets to catch them while they are still young. All right, and it kills them while they are still young. You wanted to add also, my brother?
No, so it's a follow-up question, maybe after you finish.
Okay, great. Maybe we could actually answer it at the same time. Please do share.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about your professional opinion about how does what's the role of the mind in suppressing? Okay, you have an infection, but how does your body, when your body copes with it, like naturally? Because I don't want to talk about medication. I just want to talk about naturally. How does it suppress? How does it go about suppressing the damaging effects of an infection in your body? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah.
But like naturally, how does your body go to say there's an infection, let me suppress it? Naturally.
Yeah. One of the quickest ways I can tell you is maybe I'll come to that one. Let me finish off with this one. The other thing, so the two facts I'd like to add, which I think he mentioned. Our young people are getting involved sexually early, and when they get involved, because of experimentation, they have this belief that, like foods, women taste differently or men are different. Right? So I can taste this one and taste this way, this one is like this one, so I must have variety. And that kills them because they don't know that a woman is a woman is a woman or a man is a man is a man. Alright? Now, so they tend to have more sexual partners, and they tend not to use barrier methods.
Also, just to add on that is that I mean, what happens is this. You know, let's say me, or for example, me. Right, I'll see a young girl there, and I'm thinking, I'm like, I know, this one is too fresh, and she hasn't done it.
Yeah.
But now, the moment you go there, and you do it, and she's already affected. But now you think, you know, just because she's young, of which she started doing it, as you say, at an early age, when she was probably 14. Because in South Africa, I think kids have kids when they're like 12, 13. So already, you know, when she gets to 18, she has slept with probably 10 different men.
Yeah. And
out of the 10, half of them are HIV positive. And she got the virus from 5 different people, and now it's stronger. So now if a young guy like me goes there and you hit on there, you got that's why there's boost there, and then you got.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And also when you get older, you tend to slow down sexually. Of course, there are some men who begin to use different things to be more. And women who want to, you know, this phenomenon we are seeing now of blessers. It's another new name. It's a new name for sugar daddies, mothers, and whatever. Anyway, let's leave it there. The quickest way your body reacts to infection, any infection, is to raise your temperature. Right? In fact, if you remember the quotation quoted by the doctor, disease is nature's way of dealing with breaking of the natural laws of health. So the body forces you to get sick so you can lie down, so that it can begin to repair itself. All right, then you can assist, yes, time is up. So you can assist the body as well by engaging in certain behaviors that enhance the healing. But fever is not a disease. Fever, raised temperature, is the body's way of dealing with an invading vector. All right. Because of time, let me quickly rush. I'm going to skip out quite a number of slides I was given to you. Let me go straight to the closing messages that I'd like to share and hopefully answer a few other questions we had. Now, so we do know that there are a number of infectious diseases that are killing us. Some are hygienic, person to person, non-sexual transmitted, some are sexually transmitted. And the sexually transmitted ones, HIV is one of the biggest challenges for South Africa. TB is non-sexually transmitted, but it kills a lot of people. The biggest challenge is when you combine HIV and TB, you've got a high rate of mortality. So most HIV positive patients are not killed by HIV, but by TB. And vice versa. Now, God says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because they have rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing that you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your children. This is serious. So when parents decide not to teach and live in a way that enhances life through knowledge, which knowledge comes from God, and we reject that, God says, I will also reject your. What it means is, if you reject God, you reject the knowledge that God has given us, you are transferring the curse also to your children. So some of the delinquencies and disasters we're seeing in our children are a result of parents who have forgotten God. Jeremiah chapter 4:22 says, my people is foolish, or my people are foolish. They have not known me. So what is foolishness? Not knowing God, or claiming to have knowledge when you actually don't have God in that knowledge. They are Scottish children and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil. I thought wisdom is supposed to help you do good. But these ones actually scheme. They plan. Where do you do the planning? Their minds are wired to do evil. But to do good, they have no knowledge. This statement is a psychological statement. This statement simply means that which you apply your mind to do, it will get perfect in it. So if you go in the ways of promiscuity, you become perfect in promiscuity. You then know how to hook women and men and get them involved in some things. Finally, Jeremiah says, this is the one I wanted to take more time on it, but because of time, let me cut it quickly. Jeremiah was a prophet who was sent by God to warn Israel of the dangers of disobeying God. And he warned them and said, if you continue in your paths, God is going to send Babylon to invade and destroy your civilization. Repent now and turn to God. You know what Israel said? Now, we have Egypt to the south. When the Babylonians come, we'll call Egyptians to come and help us. We'll run to Egypt, which is on the southern side, away from the Babylonians who are coming. This is what Jeremiah told them. Because at that time, Egypt was a big power in terms of science, language, and everything else. This is what the Bible says. So shall it be when all men that set their faces to go to Egypt to sojourn there, they shall die by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence. Pestilence is another way for infectious conditions or diseases. So when we gain trust and we seek the arm of flesh to give us knowledge and wisdom, we will still die. The only way out, as we know it, as believers, is that we trust God and we believe in that which He gave us for enhancing life. And knowledge, just to define it, is not facts. Facts can change, but knowledge does not change. And knowledge is that which God pronounced, because God said, that which has gone out of my mind, I will not change it. I was the same yesterday, I'm the same today, I'll be the same tomorrow. So whatever God decreed in the past, don't tell me I am a modern man, I am a modern woman. Modernity knows no knowledge. Modernity needs to be instructed by that which God decreed. If modernity rejects the principle, it's going to die. If you believe there's no force of gravity, then go up 20 floors and fly. See what will happen. You will end up here with your brains on the tongue. Okay, God bless you, and I wish you the best as you engage. I would really encourage you to go and study a little bit more the Bible from a scientific point of view. And get to know that infectious diseases can be prevented by some of the biblical methods. Some of them I've not covered them, I was going to cover them. Like when you had an infectious disease in Israel, they'll quarantine you. They'll put you out of the camp. That's actually the best medical science we have today. You actually are put in a ward alone by yourself. And that's a biblical principle. God bless you and all the best.